I want you to picture something for a second. Imagine you're walking past a construction site, right in the middle of the city.
Okay.
It's a complete mess. You've got broken concrete, rebar sticking out like rusty ribs, dust just everywhere. It looks like a disaster zone.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look really closely, right in the middle of that blasted, ugly pile of rubble, there's something growing. A weed. A fungus.
Something green pushing through the cracks.
Exactly. Life finding a way where it absolutely shouldn't. And that image, that stubborn little mushroom, is the anchor for everything we're talking about today.
Because it does feel like we're living in the demolition phase.
Right. I mean, you open the news and it's just unraveling. The climate is screaming. Our political institutions seem to be crumbling. And there's this general vibe that the systems we built to keep us safe are actually the things bringing the roof down. It's heavy.
It is, but the stack of research we're diving into today argues that we're misreading the moment. We see a collapse. These authors, they see a clearing.
They argue that what feels like an unraveling is actually the necessary friction of a great awakening.
That's the thesis, which brings us to our source material, a collection titled The Great Awakening, New Modes of Life Amidst Capitalist Ruins.
It's edited by Anna Greer and David Bollier, and it features some heavy hitters, Richard Faulk, Sam Adelman, Andreas Kuritz. These are not people writing pop psychology.
No, they are digging into the structural guts of our civilization. And they start with that mushroom metaphor you mentioned. It comes from the anthropologist Anna Singh.
The mushroom at the end of the world.
It's a fascinating little biological quirk. The Matsutake mushroom. It's highly prized, very expensive. But here's the thing. It refuses to grow in pristine, well-managed forests.
You can't farm it.
You can't. It only flourishes in landscapes that humans have ruined, places that have been logged or blasted or disturbed.
So the argument is that we, humanity, are standing in that blasted landscape right now. We are in the capitalist ruins.
And our mission for this deep dive is to figure out how to stop mourning the forest and start being the mushroom.
I like that. So we're tracing the path from the collapse, what they call the Capitalocene, and the twilight of the nation state, to the rise of something new.
The commons.
But first, you have to understand the problem. And this is where the book throws its first punch. It attacks the very words we use. I think most of us have come to accept we're living in the Anthropocene.
The age of humans.
We're the geological force. We're the asteroid. But Sam Adelman, in his essay, basically says, stop saying that.
He thinks the term is a trap, a linguistic trap.
How so?
Well, he argues that Anthropocene is scientifically accurate in one sense. Humans are moving more dirt than rivers, sure, but politically it's a disaster.
Because it blames everyone equally.
Precisely. If you call it the age of humans, you're implying humanity as a species is the problem. It suggests that you, me, a tech billionaire, and a subsistence farmer in Sudan are all equally responsible.
Which is just absurd when you look at the actual numbers. Adelman points out that in 1900, the U.S. and U.K. alone were responsible for something like 60% of emissions.
So Adelman, and he's borrowing from Jason Moore here, says we should call it the Capitalocene.
Right.
The crisis isn't caused by human biology. It's caused by a very specific economic logic. The logic of endless accumulation, cheap nature, and infinite growth.
Okay, but is that just semantics? I mean, does changing the name really change anything?
It changes everything. If the problem is the Anthropocene, human nature, then the solution is inevitably something dark, like population control. But if the problem is the Capitalocene, a specific system, then the solution is to change the system. It moves the target from people to policy.
That makes a lot of sense. But he goes deeper. He throws out a term that I found, well, honestly, it's chilling. The agnotocene.
The age of willful ignorance.
This one really hit home because you always hear people saying if politicians just saw the data, they'd act. We act like the problem is a lack of information.
And Adelman just says that's a fantasy. We have more data than any civilization in history. We aren't destroying the planet because we don't know. We're destroying it because we are actively constructing ignorance.
We're trapped in what he calls zombie categories.
Yeah.
Can you walk me through what a zombie category is?
So think about eco-modernism. Or green growth.
The idea that tech will save us.
Exactly. The idea that we can keep the current engine running just as it is. Consumption, growth, profit, but we'll just swap out the fuel for solar panels or invent some machine to suck carbon out of the air.
But Adelman says that's a zombie idea.
It's dead. It's been disproven by the sheer scale of the crisis. but it just keeps walking around eating brains because it's comfortable. It tells the powerful they don't have to change their lifestyle. It's based on the original sin of modernity.
The idea that man is separate from nature.
The Cartesian split. Yeah. That nature is just a machine we can master. And until we kill that zombie, until we realize we are nature, we're just, rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic.
Okay, so the economic system is a zombie. But this is usually where people say, well, that's why we have government. The state is supposed to step in and save us.
And this is where Richard Faulk's essay comes in and just shatters that hope. He talks about the twilight of the nation state.
And he doesn't mean a nice sunset.
No.
Yeah.
He means we're entering a period of darkness and confusion. He means the tool is broken. The nation-state was a technology invented to solve 17th century problems. It is spectacularly ill-equipped to handle planetary problems.
Because the atmosphere doesn't have a passport?
It's structural. The main goal of a nation-state is protect the national interest. But the main goal for climate change is protect the species. Those two goals are now in direct conflict.
He uses the Paris Agreement as his big example.
He does. Because we talk about it as a diplomatic success, but it's a functional failure. It has to be voluntary. In a world of sovereign states, no one can force a country to do anything.
So it's basically just a polite suggestion to stop the apocalypse.
That's a good way to put it. And if that wasn't scary enough, he brings up nuclear apartheid.
Which is?
The ultimate proof of the state's failure. We have a system where 9 countries can end civilization in 30 minutes, and the other 190 just have to hope they don't. Faulk calls this a biopolitical crisis.
Biopolitical as in the politics of life itself.
Exactly. Meaning we have global risks that threaten the biology of the human species, but we have no political mechanism that represents the human species.
Who speaks for the human?
Right now, nobody.
That is a terrifying thought. And the great irony, which Faulk points out, is that just as we need more global cooperation, we're getting less.
The second dawn of the state. Nationalism. Borders closing. My country first. It's defensive reaction. The state knows it's losing control over the big things, climate, finance, so it violently asserts control over the small things, borders, identity. It's the flailing of a dying system.
Okay, so the global system is flailing. But what about our own democracies? I mean, surely, even if the UN is broken, I can still vote for someone who will fix things locally, right?
Well, enter Andreas Kuritz. And if you thought Faulk was grim, Kuritz is the one who really twists the knife. He looks at the internal machinery of liberal democracy and says, the engine is missing.
He talks about this big shift from inclusion to exclusion.
Think about the post-World War II era. The system worked by including people. You had unions, a welfare state, rising wages. The elites maintained stability by giving the working class a seat at the table.
Kind of deal. We make money, you get a pension.
A very effective deal. But Kuritz argues that in the neoliberal era, the strategy flipped. It became about exclusion. Right. Power was systematically moved away from the places where you and I actually vote.
Moved? Where?
To independent central banks, to international trade bodies, to the bond markets. He calls it the squeeze effect.
And he uses the Greek financial crisis as the perfect case study for this.
It is. The Greek people voted overwhelmingly against austerity. They said no. And the European Central Bank and the markets essentially said, that's cute, but it's irrelevant. The politics was squeezed into this tiny box where the only allowable action was what the creditors wanted.
So a politician today, even a good one, is basically in a straitjacket. They answer to the market first and the voter second. If
they answer to the voter at all. Success is now market compliance, not social welfare. And this leads Kuritz to this historical theory that, wow, it's maybe the most provocative idea in the whole book. He called it the peasant uprising theory.
This stopped me cold. Because we're taught that democracy is the end of history. It's the peak.
We think we evolved from tyranny to democracy and we're never going back. Kuritz asks a really dangerous question. What if the last 250 years of democracy were just a temporary accident?
A peasant uprising.
An uprising that the elites couldn't put down for a while because they needed our labor for their factories. But now,
with automation, with global finance,
now they can put it down. He suggests that what we're seeing, the hollowness of our politics, is the elites finally restoring the natural order, a return to a kind of neo-medieval oligarchy. The uprising is over.
Okay, that is bleak. So we have a zombie economy, a nation state that can't save us, and a democracy that might be an illusion. If we stopped here, I think our listeners would just go back to bed.
It would be a very depressing deep dive.
But we promised mushrooms. We promised an awakening. Greer and Bollier didn't edit this book just to document our doom.
No, absolutely not. The whole point of describing the ruins is to show us where the new life is growing. And this is where Michelle Bowens and Jose Ramos come in.
This is the pivot.
This is the pivot. They argue that this collapse, this squeeze, is actually the birth pangs of the commons.
The commons. Okay, when I hear that, I think of like a sheep pasture in 18th century England.
Or a Wikipedia page. We need to upgrade the definition. Bowens argues that commoning is what humans do when the big systems fail. He compares our moment to the fall of the Roman Empire.
Another collapse.
Yes, but look at the mechanics. The Roman Empire was an extractive system. It sucked resources to the center. When it collapsed from overshoot, people didn't just vanish. They shifted to mutualization.
You mean like the monasteries?
Exactly like the monasteries. They became these little arcs of civilization. They mutualized knowledge, agriculture, housing. They created a medieval industrial revolution by sharing resources and lowering their footprint because they couldn't rely on Rome anymore.
So when the supply chain breaks, neighbors start talking to neighbors.
It's survival reflex. And Bowen says we're seeing a new mutualization right now, a move from extractive systems, which take value out, to generative systems, which keep value in.
The most concrete example he gives of this is Cosmo-local production. I love this concept. Design global, manufacture local.
This is the mushroom in the concrete.
Okay, break it down for us. How is this different from how we make things now?
Okay, let's take a tractor. In the old model, a huge corporation designs a tractor. They patent every screw. They build it in a giant factory, ship it across the ocean, and sell it to a farmer.
And if it breaks, the farmer isn't allowed to fix it? Total extraction.
Right. Now, in the Cosmo-local model, the design for the tractor is shared globally as digital code. That's the Cosmo part. It's in the digital commons. Anyone can improve it.
But you can't plow a field with a digital file.
No. But you take that file to a local fab lab or a community workshop with a 3D printer and some basic tools, and you build a tractor there.
Using local materials. So you eliminate the shipping, the patents, the planned obsolescence.
And you create a tractor the farmer understands and can fix. This is the phygital atom. Atoms stay local, bits travel the globe. It completely bypasses the fragile, carbon-heavy supply chains of the Capitalocene.
It also seems to solve that exclusion problem. If the state won't help you because it's squeezed by the markets, well, you just build your own infrastructure.
You build power outside the state, and it changes our identity. Neoliberalism told us we are all selfish individual consumers. This new model suggests we're becoming commoners.
It's a shift from what can I own to what can we access.
And what can we take care of? A commoner isn't just a user, they're a steward of an open source code base, a community garden, a local energy grid. It's about shared responsibility.
It really feels like this is the only way out of that Agnotocene. We stop waiting for a savior, a politician, or a new technology, and we start building the lifeboat ourselves.
That is the core message. The great unraveling is scary, yes, but it clears the ground. It breaks the pavement. The commons isn't just a nice idea, it's the evolutionary step that allows us to do more with less.
There's one last concept from the book that I think really ties this all together, the difference engine.
Oh, I love this idea. It's the antidote to the factory mindset.
In the old world, difference was bad. You wanted standardization, every worker the same, every product the same. Efficiency came from sameness.
But in biology, sameness is a death sentence. A monoculture of corn gets wiped out by one pest.
So in a volatile world, or a world of ruined, standardization is a huge weakness.
Precisely. The difference engine suggests we need to build a society that doesn't just tolerate diversity, but uses it as the very engine for survival. You need the farmer's local knowledge, the coder's technical skill, the indigenous wisdom of the land steward.
You need the weirdos, the outliers.
You need everyone, because in a chaotic transition, we don't know which solution is going to work. The commons allows all those different inputs to plug into the same network. It turns difference into resilience.
So if we look back at that construction site, the ruins, the Capitalocene is the concrete cracking apart. The nation-state is the old fence falling down. And the commons, that's the green stuff coming up through the cracks.
And the question for all of us is, are you just watching the concrete crack? Or are you planting something in it?
That's the provocation. Where are the mushrooms in your community? A tool library, a mutual aid group, an open source project. Because according to these authors, the future isn't being written in the halls of power anymore. It's being written in the cracks.
Look for the generative. Look for what's shared. That's where the awakening happens.
Thanks for taking the plunge with us.
See you on the other side.